Hey there, creative friends. Welcome to a chatty video. We're going to be talking about my experience teaching on Skillshare because I have a lot of classes there now. I think 35, maybe 36 now. So if you're interested, you're in the right place. I've actually been wanting to do like a video talking about my experience online teaching for a long time. It's been on my to film video for like over a year probably. But I thought this was a good time to do it, not just because I needed a video this week before I launch my Giftmas series for December next week, but because there is a Black Friday sale on for Skillshare. So if you're enticed and want to take my classes or other classes, I'll put info about that, but I've got lots of cool hookups for you guys for this. But I know that most of my audience here on YouTube are like entrepreneurs or creatives or people who just like doing stuff that I like to do. So I thought maybe it'd be useful to tell you sort of what I've learned, and you can apply that to any kind of content you're making that's actually educational, but specifically like if you wanted to teach the way that I teach. Okay, so without any further ado, here are 10 things I wrote down on my notes app to talk to you about things I've learned from doing all these classes. Also, if you hear any noise in the background, it's my little bunny. She's busy and she likes to play while I'm talking mostly. Okay, so before I get into my list, a little bit of context. Before I was doing any kind of content creation like YouTube or teaching online or anything, I was in grad school and then I actually taught at university. So I have teaching experience. I'm not just doing this out of nowhere. I really liked it. There's parts of it I didn't like. And I find that teaching online is only the parts that I like. So that's really nice for me. What I was teaching then, I taught like Latin seminars and like ancient history type things, but I also taught like a student skills class. I ran like a program around supporting like how to be great at being a student. That was another thing I did teaching-wise. What I teach now is mainly entrepreneurship, creative design, and eventually some art classes. But I would say most of my classes, especially the ones I've been making lately, I would say fall into the category of graphic design that are project-based. So you can make something that you either like have and enjoy, or you could sell it as a digital product, but it's mostly like DIY graphic design. And I think it's really fun. I love teaching that stuff and I love coming up with the classes for it. It's just as much fun as YouTube for me. But I get to put on my little teacher hat and not worry so much about being like a personality and more just being like, I'm teaching you. Here's my knowledge. And in terms of my online course teaching, I actually made my first class, which was how to self-publish journals, because I was doing that. People were asking me how to self-publish journals. I did that in around 2020, and I actually published that on like a teaching platform where you like host it yourself. And then eventually I found Skillshare and they were like, you can put your class here too. It doesn't have to be exclusive. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. So I put that class there as well. And then I just was like, oh, this is so much better. There's students finding me. There's a community there. So I just ended up doing that. I also have some classes on some other platforms, but my full library is on Skillshare. That's because I really like it. So if you're hoping to find like hot goss on being a teacher with like a negative slant, I'm sorry, I just really like it. So I don't have any complaints. And with that being said, since 2021, I have been publishing classes fairly regularly, did a lot this year and recently especially, and they're doing pretty well. I have a lot of students and have had a lot of minutes watched. So I'm very proud of that. All right, let's get into the meat of the subject, things that I've learned from this experience. Number one is logical pivots, not hard pivots. What I mean by this is when you create your first online class, you're probably doing it in a subject that you know a lot about, you're confident about, you want to share, and that's really great. But eventually, if you do like me and you keep making them because you like making content and teaching online, eventually you might think, well, I want to do classes on something else because maybe I've taught everything I know about book design. That's one thing I've taught. And now I want to teach about something else. I think it's totally okay to branch out. In fact, if you look at my teacher profile, I have like classes that are about writing and publishing. I have some that are about Etsy. I have some that are about like just other design projects. And they all, in my opinion, work together because there's a common thread in the type of person who would be interested in those subjects. So that's someone who is entrepreneurial, maybe this much entrepreneurial, this much creative, and also really likes graphic design and computers as a design tool. So if you do get to the point where you want to start teaching other things, I think rather than making a big leap to just an unrelated subject, I think you have to kind of snake your way there by doing classes that make like a logical pathway. So let's say that like I'm starting with like I taught my journal class. Eventually I moved into more like ebook publishing. I did a couple classes on just some writing skills. And then I was kind of sitting in that design camp about designing books and design book covers. And I thought, well, what else can I design using similar principles? So I moved towards certain digital products that were, you know, probably the same level in terms of skill set. And from there, I was like, well, okay, let's teach more about Etsy stuff because I was also doing that. So like there is a logical flow to the courses. And I think that it's helpful because if you're on a platform like Skillshare, students can follow you there. And when you release a new class, you get an email being like, hey, someone you follow has a new class. So I don't want my students to be like, oh, I follow Rebecca for her graphic design classes and now she's teaching me how to bake bread. It's like, well, I am actually very good at baking bread, but that is not my teaching thing. And I think that's a really important lesson if you are like me and have like a ton of interests and you want to share a ton of different things, you do need to rein yourself in a little bit by at least considering the logic behind these things. Second thing I've learned is that subjects have lifespans. This is true for everything online that I've ever created. So this is not exclusive to my online classes, but it was something I noticed like, oh no, this also exists here, which is that there's things I teach now that just aren't as interesting to students or as popular as they used to be. So for example, the How to Self-Publish Journals class. That class was really popular when I got started because we were ways into the pandemic. Everyone was trying to like start businesses. Publishing journals was like a really hot topic, so it did really well for me. But now that it's been a few years, that got super saturated. It's just not as popular a thing anymore. So that's okay because I have other interests. I've grown as well, and I've produced lots of classes on other subjects. But it certainly wouldn't work if I just kind of made that be my thing and I banked on it and just left it because that subject has kind of aged out. There are going to be evergreen subjects like art tutorials and things like that, but even in terms of the technology or the tools, if you're using digital, those can evolve. So sometimes things do age out. So it doesn't really exist as this kind of thing that you create it, leave it, and ignore it forever. You do have to attend to your teaching practice in that sense. But that's the same as anything. You know, I have Etsy stores that have done really well at certain points and then trends have died down. I have books I've published that were really popular and then they're not anymore. So it just is the natural life cycle of things. A couple of things I've learned that are in terms of like production value and teaching. First of all is audio is everything. The number one complaint that I got in my classes early on was audio quality could be improved. It wasn't bad or like hard to hear, but sometimes there would be you know, like a little bit of background noise, or it would just be a little echoey. And that's hard for me because my studio is, I don't have enough stuff on the walls or the floor, I think. I do have a bit of an echoey sound in here, but now I have found some audio tools that help clean that up. So that made a big difference. So even though it's a video-based class, or most online teaching is video-based, I still really try and prioritize using good audio because some people do just listen as audio, but in general, it seems to really matter to students, so therefore it matters to me. If you want advice on like specific gear and stuff, I do have a video about how I make YouTube videos and it's all the same equipment. So you could check that out, but I'll put some information in the video description with like my mic setup and stuff. The next thing I learned that is definitely more about presentation skills and is hard for me is to speak slowly, clearly, but also naturally. And I had this issue earlier in YouTube. I'm sure I still do it. I don't think this is solved for me. I talk fast because I'm sitting at a camera and I'm using all my attention span and I'm just word vomiting sometimes. Even if I'm saying something smart, it's just coming out fast. So I definitely try and slow it down. I've probably talked too fast in this video already, but it is something I'm actively working at improving because there's a couple of reasons for it. So first of all, it's just a little bit easier to understand when I'm taking my time and being clear and intentional with my diction. But there's also technical reasons. So number one is that a lot of these websites, I'm just speaking broadly about videos right at this point, have auto captioning and auto translation features. So people from other countries who English might not be their language at all, or maybe they just understand a little bit, are relying on captions or translations. And if you talk fast, that software messes up way more often. So it is actually useful to be a bit more clear and slow, not like slow, but just like how I'm talking right now, which is a bit more relaxed, whereas normally I'm talking really fast. Like I said, this is something I'm trying to actively work on. But also, in addition to like speaking more slowly, I do think speaking more naturally is also good. And that kind of leads into my next bullet point, which is don't be a robot. I have definitely consumed lots of content over the years where someone is clearly reading off a script, and scripts are fine. I'm scripted all the time for my classes, but it's kind of sticking too tightly to it and you stop talking like a human. And I think that like it can be fine. I'm sure there's cases where it absolutely doesn't matter. But generally, when I'm learning from someone, I would like to be reminded that they are a person because it makes me feel more capable of doing the thing that they are doing too, because I also am a person. So for me, what that means is that I'm not editing out all of my ums and ahs. If I'm pausing and like looking away, which I'm doing naturally right now, I leave that in. And also I laugh at my own jokes sometimes and I will leave that in. It's not necessarily good editing or good clean editing, but I think it humanizes my content and I think that people seem to respond to it. My biggest evidence is that I have a lot of students and I've gotten a lot of good reviews. So I think that it is working. But doing that more like robotics maybe not the right word, just like super formal presentation style, I think can be useful if you are nervous, if you're like doing it for the first time. I've done a lot of talking to the camera, but I've also done a lot of talking to crowds and classes in person. So I don't tend to overthink the way that I present things, but I know that if you're starting off, it can be harder. So don't beat yourself up if you've heard this feedback from me and you're like, oh, I do speak really, really like rigidly. But I think there is a benefit to loosening up a little bit. It makes you seem more comfortable, but also more relatable. And I do think it is nice to have relatable teachers. In terms of class performance, so often I will come up with an idea and I think it's really good and I will work really hard on it. Often the ones you work really hard on, in fact. This is true for YouTube as well. You put it out there and it just doesn't do as well as you thought. And that's because ultimately you can't predict a winner. You can use your best guess and you can determine things that make sense and based on what people have liked before and what you think the trends are and all that. But ultimately you can't, sometimes they aren't winners and you don't get to decide that. You can revamp your work, but that also leads me into my next bullet point, which is sometimes slow and steady is best. Sometimes you need to leave a class or a YouTube video, a piece of content to marinate and it picks up later. I've absolutely seen this to be true where I make something, I think, wow, this is really great. And I put it out in the world, it doesn't really catch on and I feel really disappointed and I walk away to work on the next thing, which is sort of my method. I don't overwork a certain thing, I just move on, which is not necessarily the best workflow, but whatever. But often things pick up in time. Sometimes it just needs time to reach the right people. So sure, you can go in and, change your thumbnail, change your keywords, change your title, whatever, that can help, but it's not always that's not always the problem. Sometimes it's just timing and getting in front of the right people. So those 2 points are sort of under the maybe bigger umbrella of don't be too hard on yourself, because it can be discouraging at the very least when you work really hard on something and it doesn't take off. I'm doing a series of classes right now that are graphic design projects on Canva because I love working on Canva. And I'm doing some that are like posters, some that are like little artsy pieces, and they're really fun. And one of the projects I came up with was this little desk calendar that I love. Actually, I have it right here. Hold on. This is it. It's like this little desk calendar with tabs and you like move the tab to the back. And I've got this little stand for it. It's really shuffled right now. Sorry. It's very cute. I love this project. It was so fun to make. It wasn't super hard. And I just had like really good feeling about it. And I put it out there and I have students and I'm not saying I don't, but like it has not done as well as other classes that I've done lately. And I was kind of thinking that was going to be like a huge banger for me. So I'm a little surprised at that, but then I thought, well, it's a calendar project. Maybe in January in the new year is when it's going to really take off. So I'm just going to let it hang out. And like I said, I do have students in it. It just hasn't performed as I expected, which is fine. We do our best, All right, 2 more things on my list. The next one is that having structure/management helps me at the very least. What I mean by this is when I got started doing online courses, like I said, I was putting it on my own platform. I didn't really have any feedback or just like any rules. It was just sort of whatever I wanted. And because I have a teaching background, that wasn't daunting. Like I was okay with that. And I feel like I made some pretty good content. But once I started working on Skillshare, I started talking to people from there, and I have like a contact I can email. I have like other peers now that are teachers there that I've met through various channels, that it's like I can talk to them and get advice and chat about issues. And also, Skillshare has parameters that you have to follow, but I find them very, very helpful. So I think it's really nice, especially as someone who thrived in the university ecosystem, to have some structure and some, not it's not accountability really, because no one's like, there's no expectations. I'm just uploading what I feel like doing. But it is nice to be able to say, like, is this subject going to be good? Like, let me look at the reports that they offer, or talk to someone who works there, or like troubleshoot an issue. Like, having people be there is really nice, which is why it's so much nicer for me personally than running my own website for courses, for example. I have like I said, I have my courses on some other platforms. I have my YouTube membership. Again, that's within the parameters of a system that exists. I'm talking more about the difference between striking it out on your own versus making a membership thing or classes on a known platform. I definitely prefer having somebody I could email about stuff. So why is this like relevant or interesting? It is because if you are an entrepreneur, creative entrepreneur, and doing this by yourself, which a lot of you I think probably are, you may have already encountered, or you're going to, so you look forward to it, the experience of feeling alone, lost, confused, and not sure what to do next. That happens to me all the time. I've been doing this for like a decade, and I still feel like sometimes I wish there was a handbook or a manual to how to run a business like this, but there isn't, because this is a very strange business to run, where I have my content creation and my art channel and like freelance work I do and YouTube and all sorts of stuff. So it's very rare running a business, running a career like this, to have people in your corner, I guess, who you can go to and talk to about the thing that you do. Even on YouTube, like, I don't have a YouTube person that I can reach out to. Maybe I could find one, but I'm certainly not aware of it. They've not made themselves known if such a person is extant. And also, it's a massive platform. I'm a tiny drop in a bucket. I'm a tiny drop in an ocean, which is fine. Even just thinking about like a traditional job, like you at least have like a hierarchy, and there's people above you who, at least if you hit a wall or something, there's someone to talk to. So I like that about teaching through a platform like Skillshare, just because then I have people to talk to when I have a problem. I think it sounds really simple, but it really does matter when you're in the thick of it. Like, I've made really dumb mistakes sometimes. Like, I've uploaded a class when I'm really tired late at night, and I forgot to like title all my videos, and they were just called like stupid names I had made up for them when I was organizing my files. And I had someone, from quality control, like message me and be like, hey, this is bad. You forgot to do that. I'm like, yeah, that looks really bad. I don't want my students to see that. So just having another set of eyes, even, really helpful. That's made a big difference for me, and I think is why I feel so confident keeping making classes there. And everyone's been really nice, so no complaints. And the final thing that I've learned, or that I kind of take away from my experience doing all these classes, is that I think online courses make a really great addition to an online career ecosystem. So I've talked about in other videos sort of what my ecosystem looks like, all different income streams and all the different business things I work on. And I think the teaching one is really great. My reasons for liking it being part of this picture is not just because I enjoy teaching and had that as my like career background, so I get to still fulfill that part of me and also feel like part of my education wasn't a waste. That's actually not a small thing. So that is really nice for me, but that's maybe not super relatable. It's that I like being able to channel different creative energies I have into different things. So for example, when I want to make something, but I don't want to talk to anybody, I just want to design, I will make products for my Etsy stores. When I want to do art, but I don't want to talk to anybody, I will just make art that I can sell on my art business. When I want to make art and chat, I will film it for YouTube. Or if I just feel like hanging out and chatting or vlogging or anything, that's all going on YouTube. But sometimes I want to put on my little professional hat and say like I know something really specific and I would love to tell you about it and teach you it. That's where the teaching fits into my system. Like it gives me a place to feel that more professional, formalized aspect of my personality, because I do have that and I enjoy it. And like I said, I'm not over there giving a robotic lecture where I'm just talking with the script and not being myself. I'm still being myself, but part of me is I like standing in front of a classroom. But that could also be part of you that likes public speaking, or that just likes information sharing, or that feels really satisfied conveying information accurately and clearly. Like, I think that is a personality trait that some of us have. If you're like watching this video and you care about this, you probably have it, because I don't know why you would watch this if you didn't think online teaching sounded a little fun. So I think it really is an important part of like my personal expression, is just being able to do this. And that, again, is not platform dependent. You don't have to teach on Skillshare to express your personality through teaching or professional content. That's just a choice. That's just the way that I have chosen to do it, and I like it. That's all I had to say about it. I hope that makes sense. I feel like that was a little bit of I don't know, a bit of a strange point, but it was like coming from a personal place. And the final thing, I might have misnumbered all these things, but the final thing that I have learned that I love about it is, man, my students are really cool. It is so nice to connect with people who appreciate the work you do. That's just true. You get a good review on anything and it's going to make you happy. I have gotten reviews that, like, I've called my mom to tell her, like, Mom, this is someone said about my class and they said about me. And it's been so cool getting feedback like that. When I was teaching at the university, like, I didn't get, you can sometimes get like end of term feedback. Sometimes students talk to you, but very rarely. And it's also much more theoretical what I was teaching. Like, you know, it wasn't how to do this design project in 15 minutes. It was more bigger than that. So the concise feedback was something I didn't really get. And not only does it help me like steer my boat in terms of what I want to create next, but also it's so motivating. The same way when I get nice comments on YouTube, I'm like, these people are so nice. And there's just not always a way to connect with people who are consuming your content and what you make. So when you do, it's great. And let me tell you, I've had just such great experiences with my students. I'm really grateful for them. I have some who take like all my classes. When I release a new one, I see them pop up and I'm like, there's that person I know. I'm so happy they're here. I thought of them when I made this class. So yeah, it's not just, what am I trying to say? It's not just nice in terms of like good feedback, but it also just motivates me. I think it would motivate anyone to keep at it. Like I said, I have my stuff on other platforms. YouTube's the only one that's comparable in terms of like connecting both ways. I don't really get feedback in other places from students. So Skillshare and YouTube have a lot in common in terms of that. I do feel a sense of community there with the people I connect with. So it's great. I love all my students. I'm so grateful for them. I probably talk about them way more than they think. Sometimes I'll put the reviews I get on my Instagram story or whatever and just be like, look what someone said. So nice. Maybe I'm just really annoying about that, but it's very flattering. And again, like I said, there wasn't a lot of opportunity in my other teaching career to get that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I teach different when I'm doing it in person. Maybe I wouldn't want to hear what people say. But in this capacity where I've filmed something and controlled it and presenting a delicious finished product, delicious? Sure. In this way, it's nice to hear feedback. So those are my thoughts and my points on why I like teaching online, doing online classes, specifically Skillshare. But like I said, there's other options. I'm just a fan of this. So if you are interested in teaching, I would say check it out. But if you're interested in being my student, because obviously I love them, and people watching on YouTube, you are in my same little digital heart, I have some codes and stuff. Okay, so here's what I have. If you're watching this video immediately when it comes out, or before the end of December 2nd, 2024, I have a coupon code for you. If you're watching after, I just have the other thing for you, which is a free month trial. So that's good too. That's amazing. So here's what it is. If you go click on the link in my video description, it's going to take you to my teacher profile. You can take my classes, but you can sign up through there, get a free month. Everybody can do that at any time. So in a month, surely you could actually take all of my classes. So feel free to do that. Leave me nice reviews if you care. I hope you care. Anyways, but if you do that, let's say that you watch this today when this video comes out, you go get a free trial, you look at my classes, you're like, oh, these are amazing. Also, you get all these other teachers' classes too, who are super cool. Then you can get 50% off a year subscription. I have a code. All the teachers were given this code as a little promotion. So it just lined up with the fact I want to make this video. So the code is on the screen. I'll also put all the information down below, and that will get you 50% off a new subscription. Or if you had a subscription before and it expired and you want to come back, it works there too, which I think is great. I have a subscription too, because not only do I want to spy on other people's classes, but I also like taking them. So that is my offer. If you're interested, I think it's cool. At the very least, if you haven't had a free trial before, I would say go do it, just because if you like watching my content, there's like 35 plus more videos. Some of them are older, so I may look different. I may look younger. I may talk faster or slower, depending on how hard I was trying. But yeah, there's a lot for you there. So like I said, if you want to do the free month trial at the very least, check out my profile. And you can also just go and spy on what I'm teaching if you're curious. I'm fine with people spying on what I'm teaching. But yeah, I think it's a really good deal, and it's worthwhile. I just think as an entrepreneur too, I'm gonna put my little pitch hat on for this, but there's a lot of skills you need to be a business owner, and some of them are technical, like how do I set up a website? How do I build a wholesale catalog? I have a class on that one. How do I like not mismanage my schedule? How do I get everything done? And there's like, these are skills you can learn, and people are teaching them. I've taken great classes on these things. So yeah, so highly recommend for all entrepreneurs, at least dip in with the free trial and just get some knowledge, because it's out there and really talented people are sharing their stuff. I would humbly consider myself amongst them. At the very least, I am sharing my stuff. I'll leave it up to you to decide if I'm talented at it. All right, that is enough yapping for me. I actually have to run. I'm late for my optometrist appointment, but I really wanted to finish filming this because I was on a roll and I was feeling it. Okay, I love you all for watching. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed to my channel before, please do. I'm planning 24 DIY videos for Christmas. I haven't really announced that. I don't have time to get into it now. I'll do a post about it. Starting on December 1st, we're gonna do DIYs all the time. It's gonna be so fun. A lot of paper craft. They're not really Christmassy themed, to be honest. Just a couple of them are. But most are just like, I don't want to make just Christmas content. Anyways, what was I saying? Love you. Christmas content. Subscribe. I'll just put some bunny B-roll on here. Hope you have a great day. Blueberry says hey. Keep creating cool stuff. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I gotta go. I'm so late. Oh my gosh. Okay, bye.